Hello everyone, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Early morning, we are seeing a news here that is BRICS supports dialogue between Russia and Ukraine. This is seen as one of the most important progress in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. You all know that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine has been happening from the last 3 or 4 months, and here yesterday in a virtual BRICS meeting that happened, the BRICS leaders have proposed that BRICS can mediate between the Russia and Ukraine. All these days, the United Nations tried because of the NATO forces, the Russian anger, which led to the Russian invasion on Ukraine and the fall of cities that we have seen, fall of Mariupol and a lot of destructions that has happened. Now, this seems to an end. This seems like it is an end. We don't know what will happen. This is just a proposal. And here we'll see what happened yesterday. As you can see here, the Russian President Vladimir Putin was of the view yesterday, the selfish actions of the West is the result of the present situation. When he makes this statement in the BRICS virtual conference, he is pointing all his fingers towards the USA and the expansionist policies of the NATO. You all know the NATO, which was started in the year 1948, post Second World War, had 12 members back then, and now the NATO has 30 members. So the eastward expansion of the NATO forces has made the Russia more insecure about its security, and this is the reason why such selfish actions of the West has led to the present day situation. This is the statement that was made at the virtual summit of the leaders of the grouping hosted by China on 23rd June 2022, that is yesterday. When it comes to the Chinese voice, the Chinese President Xi Jinping was of the view that China is aiming for true multilateralism, but the West is crippled with the post-World War situation, that is post-World War II, the hegemony of the USA that started in the post-World War II. The West is crippled with this, but the China is striving for the true multilateralism. Okay, the Cold War mentality and the bloc confrontation, okay, which these two are the effects of the Second World War. So the West is still in this shadow, but the China is working towards true multilateralism, and the BRICS, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, this regional grouping is something that is working towards the reformation of the world order. This is what the Chinese president had to say. BRICS is a sign of unity. BRICS is a sign of unity. And these leaders, all the 5 BRICS leaders, when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, let's see how they are united. Beijing has tightened its cooperation with Russia, and Beijing has come up with something called as no limits partnership. That means China is like an all-weather friend for Russia. This Russia and China relationships has no limits. This is what the no limit cooperation or the no limit partnership between Russia and China has to do. China has also abstained from voting like India, but China is one step ahead and it has voted in support of Russia against the NATO forces and the West on a number of Western-led resolutions at the United Nations. So China has not shown any resistance in voting in support of Russia, whereas India has abstained from voting and India has not supported Russian claims on Ukraine. This is the difference. Remember, India has not supported Russian claims, whereas China has voted in favor of Russian claim on Ukraine. India, Brazil and South Africa have also abstained from voting. This is how the BRICS leaders are united when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Okay, see, the objective of the BRICS was to maintain the multipolar world and work towards multilateralism. Okay, so that is the reason why the BRICS countries feel that the Russia is not something that's a grave mistake that was done by Russia. So that is the reason why all these 3 countries, India, Brazil and South Africa have also abstained from voting. China and India have emerged as the biggest buyers of the Russian oil and coal, which has been banned by the USA. See, the US sanctions on the Russia has not threatened India and China, whereas India and China have went ahead and bought Russian oil, so that in order to reflect the unity that the BRICS countries have. We have talked about all the positive things about the BRICS. Now let's talk about some negative things that is also a part of BRICS. One thing is the PM Modi ji, the Prime Minister, has not held any direct and bilateral relations, any bilateral talks with the Chinese counterpart, that is Xi Jinping, since the PLA transgressions in the April 2020. You remember this at Galwan Valley. At Galwan Valley, there was a skirmish between Indian and the Chinese soldiers. So after this, it's been almost 1.5 to 2 years, and the Chinese President and the Indian Prime Minister have not had direct talks at all. So this is something that is lacking. The disputes, the bilateral disputes between India and China is impacting the overall growth and the development of the BRICS as a grouping altogether. The China's decision to block India-US proposal to designate LET, that is Lashkar-e-Taiba, Deputy Chief Abdul Makki at the UN Security Council last week as the global terrorist reflects the priorities and the differences between the BRICS countries. Here, the India and the USA proposed this person to be designated as the terrorist, but the China opposed this. So again, the all-weather friendship between China and Pakistan and the influence that the Pakistan has on China is impacting the China's and the India's relationship. Okay, this is the reason why there are some issues with BRICS. The grouping, let's talk about the history of BRICS and its importance. The grouping were formalized during the first meeting of the BRIC foreign ministers in the year 2006, and the contribution that BRICS has to the world is great. You can see here it houses 41% of the global population, 24% of the global GDP, and 16% of the global trade. Okay, this is the importance of BRICS. You need to remember this. If you quote this data in the introduction or the importance of BRICS to the world, then this will be a great value addition to your answer. These are some of the outcomes of the BRICS summit. 2014, BRICS came out with something called as New Development Bank, that is called as NDB, New Development Bank. And this New Development Bank was formalized as an alternative financing mechanism of IMF and World Bank. So this New Development Bank funds both public and the private projects, the developmental projects in the member countries. And remember, the membership of the New Development Bank is not limited to just 5 countries of the BRICS, and many countries are also a part of New Development Bank. Okay, and it has something called as contingency reserve arrangement. Okay, this contingency reserve arrangement is similar to the arrangement that IMF has. In IMF, we have something called as reserve trench. Okay, the quota of IMF and also the reserve trench of IMF. This contingency reserve arrangement is such a mechanism which reflects the reserve trench of IMF. 2016, the event happened in Goa, and the MOU, that is Memorandum of Understanding, was signed on trade. 2018, Johannesburg, Partnership on the Industrial Revolution. 2019, at Brasilia, a treaty was signed that is called as Brasilia Declaration. Brasilia Declaration once again stresses on the importance of multilateralism that is given by BRICS countries. Okay, the Brasilia Declaration worked towards the reformation of the world order. Like, for example, reforming the organizations like United Nations Organization, IMF, WTO, World Bank. So all these organizations has to be reformed according to the present world order. That is what the outcome of Brasilia Declaration. As usual, let's look at a question. The regional groupings have more potential and vigor to resolve bilateral and multilateral issues than the global initiatives like UNO. This you can have it in your IR part of GS2. Very important and a very possible question. Looking at the present day world order and in the near future, this is something that UPSC can stress on. So what the question means is the regional groupings. Like for example, we have talked about BRICS. BRICS is a regional grouping. It is not a world grouping. It is a regional grouping. This BRICS has more potential and more opportunities, more vigor to resolve the bilateral and the multilateral issues than the UNO, which is a world organization. So this is the question. So some examples, like for example BRICS, and also we have something called as BBIN. Okay, you would have heard of BBIN, and we have something called as SARC. Okay, and India and Pakistan both are a part of SCO, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So SCO is one of the good example that you can give when you're answering this question. Like for example, India and Pakistan both are a part of SCO. China is also a part of SCO. So this regional organization, okay, this regional organization which involves all the three neighboring countries and also the countries which are involved in disputes. So such organizations can easily resolve the disputes when compared with the world organization, that is UNO or United Nations Security Council. Okay, this is what with examples. If you can quote some examples, and also if you can talk about the African Union and also European Union. Okay, so that will be a very good value addition, and if you can integrate some maps with respect to BRICS and BBIN, it would be great. So that will be something that you got to write in this answer, which is asked for 10 marks. Okay, by this we'll end this video. For more such enriching content, please subscribe to Legacy IAS Academy. Have a nice day. Thank you.